run it at the top. So I'll ask, if I may, to kick the event off, if Michelle Thomson would take the mic. Michelle is Director of Business for Scotland, the outstanding small and medium-sized enterprise campaigning body for business. Been such a balancing part of the campaign. She's a professional pianist, would you believe, but also 23 years in the finance sector. So one of her lives is really interesting and fun, and the other one is less so. You're very welcome, and you're used to making change happen, you say, so please give her a round of applause to kick things off.
First of all, can I just say thank you very much for giving up your Sunday night, and I hope this will be interesting and informative. For those of you who don't know about Business for Scotland, it was set up to give voice to our businesses. Our businesses in Scotland is over 99% in the small, medium enterprise sector. Because when we hear the phrase business says, often what that means is large multinationals headquartered in London and listed on the stock exchange there. And as I become fond of saying, I have no idea whether this is true, who's representing the voice of Jeannie McGlumfer, the hairdresser in Wishaw High Street? I have no idea whether there is a Jeannie McGlumfer, but you get the idea. We were launched in May last year. We've now got over 2,500 members and 13 different branches throughout Scotland, and we're trying to give coverage of every sector and every geographic location. So I thought tonight I'd ask quickly some questions of you, which you don't need to answer, because through the course of this debate we've had a lot around the economics, we've had a lot around the democracy, a lot around the kind of social inclusion and fairness and so on, but we've never really touched on the kind of philosophical elements, if you like. And of course, we Scots are also known for our philosophy. So, question number one, do we believe the Scots are a nation? I mean, obviously David Cameron and Alex Salmond do. But that's almost kind of at the heart of this debate. They've signed the Edinburgh Agreement that agrees to stand by the decision that the sovereign people make. But just if you can reflect on that for a minute. To what extent do we believe we can shape our lives? And incidentally, are we responsible for that, or are they? And whoever they may be, is that they in Edinburgh or they in Westminster? What kind of future should we gift our young people? And most importantly, those young people who are not even born, what are we gifting to them as a future? Jim Sillars puts it particularly well, I feel, when he points out that on that precious day, on the 18th of September, we will hold a precious gift in our hands, the gift of the sovereignty of the Scottish people. And we will have that until 10 o'clock at night. And we will decide whether we keep it and frame out decisions going forward, or whether we choose to give it away. So let's reflect on that for a minute. It's clear that the choice we make is fundamental, and possibly, we all agree, the most important election we will ever have in our lives. So we know the economic case has largely been made. There's a lot of facts and figures around there, and I'm sure we'll cover these off tonight in the questions, but we know Scotland's a wealthy country. We know its finances are stronger than the rest of the UK. We know we collect more tax per head of population. We have done consistently for every year of the last 33 years. We know we have strong onshore sectors, manufacturing, food and drink, tourism, financial services, the list goes on. And we know we have considerable strengths offshore as well. And of course there's been a bit of a debate about that with the interjection of Sir Ian Wood, who forgot the report he wrote in February that pointed out, yes, indeed there was around 24 billion barrels of oil, you know, and the net worth, is it over $1 trillion, is it 1.5 trillion? As they say in Glasgow, it's hunners. I found a figure tonight, the Bentley field, because of course they're talking about known discovered oil, which is, you know, we know we're going to reap, but the Bentley field, which is due to be drilled by Excite Energy, and that's why I've had to write it down, has up to 770 million barrels of oil with an estimated value of $73,815 million US. The reason I'm pointing that out is that it almost doesn't matter. There is a lot of oil, and we know it will run out at some point. But the key point is what we choose to do with it. That oil that we've had so far that has been more than that which has been discovered in Abu Dhabi and Dubai combined. And what do we have to show for it? So that's a key point. We know we've got massive reserves in renewables in Europe as well. I mean, you know, 25% wind, 10% wave and so on. And of course Euro was again in the news today. I had to speak on Sky earlier where Ed Balls had made an interjection saying in reality the plan B for currency should be to join the Euro. He appeared to have forgotten that they've spent the last year and a half saying we wouldn't even be in Europe. Of course we'll be in Europe. And as for joining the Euro, let's be clear, we would be required to track ERM2 for a number of years. We'd need to have our own currency, and then we would need to fit the convergence criteria in terms of debt and deficit. So we know Scotland is a wealthy country. We know that it's the second favoured destination outside London, the City of London. And it's interesting when you look at the charts of that, the highest peak previous to the past 2 years, and these studies done by Ernst & Young, was actually around 15, 16 years ago. And guess what was happening 15 to 16 years ago? Yes, of course, the Scottish Parliament was being set up. So that meant the word Scotland was again on the lips of the world. That meant that brand Scotland was being pumped out there. And I happen to think that the two are not a coincidence. So we know if we were independent today, we'd be the 14th wealthiest country in the OECD and the UK's at the 18th. But of course, these measures are done by GDP per head of population. And what's that when it's at home? You know, what does it really mean to us if that social dimension where we have 1 in 9 children in severe poverty, 1 in 5 in common or gardener poverty? Not a lot. So there's something seriously wrong in an economic system where we chart so highly and yet many people are visiting food banks where we've seen a 400% increase in the use of food banks in Scotland in the last year alone. The democratic element we know is a massive issue as well. And I've become fond of saying, when did I sign up to this? When did I sign up to the fact that it became the norm that I cast a vote in a Westminster election and I didn't get the government I voted for? When did we sign up to that? When did that get okay? And of course it's not okay. It's so fundamentally not okay. The whole point about government is you get the governments that your nation votes for to implement the economic policies for the benefit of your nation. And it seems so fundamental to say that, but we have lost our way totally with that. One of the interesting things that I've enjoyed very much taking part in this debate is how the ideas, the visioning, the looking forward around how we can change participative democracy going forward. There was an event in Edinburgh yesterday in Leith which was just miraculous to be involved in. And it subtly shifted, not from if Scotland, when it's independent, to when. How will we ensure that people are making their voices be heard? And it was just fantastic. It's so exciting to be involved in, because this is at the essence of the debate for me. Let our voices be heard. Let the voices of those people who have been disenfranchised, dispossessed, who've given up the ghost in our electoral system, let's really increase the level and nature of participative democracy. And of course that's one of the wonderful things about being able to live stream this debate and your questions tonight. So we've covered off about wealth. We know Scotland's a wealthy country. We know we have issues around democracy. We know we have issues around justice. The last thing to say about the UK, we know that it's so fundamentally polarised between the haves and have-nots. Most people aren't aware that actually the issue with that is that Professor Stieglitz, who's involved in the Fiscal Commission Working Group and is a very well-known economist in his own right, and even Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, they point out that it's not just the social aspect of that. Where you have economies that are polarised that much between the haves and have-nots, they are fundamentally unstable. Which leads me on to risk, because what we've been told so far is that risk, it's too risky to change. Don't take the risk. But I know from a change agenda, I spent many years implementing large-scale business change. Change is at its best where you are leading it, where you are shaping it. That is the position we need to be in. That's what we need to do. And not sit back because we're too fearful and let change be done to us. And make no mistake, change is coming. We can lead it, or we can allow ourselves to be led by it. So it's very much at the heart of part of these choices for us. Now, I understand from the chair I've been restricted to 5 minutes, so I am going to wind up soon and not go on too long. Last wee theme I would say is that another point I would make about this is about self-belief. We need to have self-belief. It's fundamental. And many of us perhaps have lost our way in that as well, because self-belief underpins confidence. And it's not necessarily a hope versus fear discussion for me, it's actually a confidence. So self-belief underpins confidence. Confidence underpins ambition. Ambition underpins vision. So I would say to you, let us have self-confidence, let us have ambition, let us have self-belief, and therefore let us vote yes.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.